If you've been following the story of Elon Musk buying 9.2% of Twitter shares, making him the company's largest shareholder, you've been privy to the various twists and turns that have occurred. After news broke of the big move, speculation ran wild over what Musk's real plans were. That question seems to be answered after current Twitter CEO Parag Agrawal, I'm sure I murdered that, announced that the Tesla owner was going to join Twitter's board. Now, that would cap Musk's ability to buy any more of the company's shares at just above 14%, but would theoretically give him some voice in the decision-making of the social media company. But then out of nowhere, things suddenly changed again. Agrawal put out a statement on Monday saying that Musk would not, in fact, be joining the board. There was no further explanation given, only that it was Musk's decision. But some speculate that the billionaire was positioning himself for a hostile takeover, something that wouldn't be possible if his shares were capped well under a majority stake. That ambiguity has reportedly led to massive emotional meltdowns among Twitter's fragile employee base. This from the New York Post, citing a report from Bloomberg. Support groups are forming, and employees are fearful of what will come next. Quote, the uncertainty left Twitter workers feeling super stressed about the future, with employees reportedly, quote, working together to help each other get through the week. The report cited interviews with Twitter employees who asked not to be identified while discussing the company's inner workings. Several employees told the outlet that Twitter's internal environment was a shit show after Musk's deal with the board fell through. One Twitter employee griped that Musk was likely just getting started with pushing for change at the company, a development the worker described as unfortunate, according to Bloomberg. For crying out loud, just imagine being so emotionally unstable that you freak out over the possibility that Elon Musk might make Twitter more libertarian in regards to free speech. What in the hell kind of communist daycare are they running over there anyway? I get the feeling the computers and the programs must do most of the work. It's not like he's looking to come in and fundamentally change what the social media company does, although it sounds like most of the employees had their hearts set on fundamentally changing this country. His only stated goals, to this point at least, is to make sure people have the right to say things that they believe. Yet, for the scores of liberals that work for this company, that's enough to make them break out with hives. This whole thing is about as childish and ridiculous as these people's political views are. But it's really not surprising, though. Those that work for these tech companies are typically brought up in a very specific culture, beginning in college. Well, hell, probably from birth. Not only are these little Nazis conditioned to not tolerate opposing viewpoints, but they are also taught to view that opposition as dangerous. You see, if you don't think a man can become a woman, you are deemed as an existential threat and are treated as such. Thus, they see Elon Musk as not just a businessman making a business decision, but as an enemy of their entire worldview. Of course, that's deranged, as a company like Twitter exists to make money, paying employees and shareholders. It does not exist to make woke liberals feel better about themselves. Yet, modern corporate culture has allowed the inmates to run the asylum, and this is the result. There's absolutely nothing normal about this kind of hysterical, immature behavior being shown by adults. If I worked for a company and Hillary Rodham Clinton bought 9.2% of it, I wouldn't be very happy, but I wouldn't need smelling salts and a dadgum support group, for crying out loud. Why? Because I'm a grown-ass man, and freaking out like a prepubescent child over something so mundane is a utterly ridiculous thing to do. The simple fact that these idiots have created an environment like Twitter where such behavior is acceptable by, again, grown-ass adults is the very reason why someone like Elon needs to walk up in the joint and do a little ass-kicking. And while I'd love to say these employees will grow out of such behavior, it's clear they won't. Conservatives made a huge mistake over the last several decades assuming that far leftism was just a university fad that wouldn't spill over into the workplace. Unfortunately, that battle was lost. Now it's up to people like Musk to retake ground and re-establish some semblance of normalcy back in the corporate world. Let's hope he has the will to do so. I certainly think he does. And it's a damn shame that he can't walk up into YouTube offices with a sledgehammer and go to work there as well. Now let's check out what Tucker Carlson has to say about the issue.
Genuinely good news. And here it is. It looks possible that Elon Musk will seize control of Twitter and end censorship on that platform. Now, why should you care about that? It's like a tech story, right? Who cares about social media? Here's why you should care. Because if that were to happen, we could see a return of free speech to the United States, and nothing should give you more hope than that possibility. A free Twitter would mean an open debate about ideas on the single most important incubator of elite opinion in the world. It would mean a return to free and fair elections in the United States, a system in which both sides are allowed to make their case to the public, and then the public can decide. It's called democracy. And above all, a free Twitter would mean a direct challenge to the people in charge of our country's institutions, many of whom are incompetent. For the first time in years, we will be able to talk honestly about our leaders. We'll be able to have the kind of conversations that make democracy possible. We can't have those conversations now, and there's a reason for it. The point of censorship is never to shield the weak, no matter what Barack Obama may tell you. The point of censorship, always and everywhere, is to protect entrenched power. That's why it's the powerful who impose censorship for their own benefit. And that's exactly why illegitimate regimes fight so hard to control information through censorship. That's their main concern. Why are they so focused on that? That's why. Somehow, the right does not seem to understand this. The left definitely understands it. Watch this MSNBC anchor appear to realize in real time what it would mean if the Democratic Party's donor base ever lost control of an influential social media platform.
And the bigger question on everyone's mind now, will Musk's newfound Twitter power mean Trump will be back on the platform? And on that possibly nightmare-inducing note, I wish you a good night.
It would be a nightmare, she tells us, if a democratically elected president were allowed to speak in public. And in some ways, she's right. Shattering its monopoly on speech could break the Democratic Party. Even an MSNBC anchor understands that. Why are they so determined to keep you from talking? Because they know your talking is the threat to their power. Allowing the free exchange of ideas in America's public square is far more important than any single election result. And if you don't believe it, consider what we've just seen over the past 2 years. You can elect Donald Trump if you want. Go ahead and do it. But the Democratic Party can still silence Donald Trump at will. So what does that tell you? Who's more powerful, voters or the social media companies that control what voters know? It's not even close. Republicans in Congress pretend not to understand this. Maybe they really are that stupid. Possible. Doesn't matter, because either way they will never fix it. Ever. They've had a chance. They passed. Even Jack Dorsey, who created Twitter, could not end censorship on Twitter. And so in the end, Jack Dorsey fled his own company when it became a Frankenstein monster that made America more hierarchical rather than less, a company that served the powerful at the expense of everyone else. That was the opposite of the intended effect. So he just left. He had no choice. Elon Musk, virtually alone in the entire technology industry, appears to understand what exactly is happening here. Here's Musk in 2018, appearing on 60 Minutes, acknowledging that in a world of corporate media, Twitter can act as an equalizer. Watch.
You tweet a lot.
I use my tweets to express myself. Some people use their hair. I use Twitter.
Well, but you use your tweeting to kind of get back at critics.
Rarely.
You kind of have little wars with the press.
Twitter is a war zone. If somebody's going to jump in the war zone, it's like, okay, you're in the arena. Let's go.
Okay. Who does that sound like?
I don't know. Who's it sound like?
It sounds like a guy who lives at the White House.
Oh, that guy. Yeah, sure. He's very good at Twitter.
Twitter is a war zone. Now, that tape is from 3.5 years ago. Twitter is no longer a war zone. There's only one army on the field. Donald Trump has been banned for Twitter, despite the fact he may run in the next presidential race. He's an active politician with millions of people who would support him. He's been banned. Charlie Kirk had a huge following on Twitter. He's been suspended too. So is the Babylon Bee. And for that matter, this show has been suspended. Questioning the prevailing storyline is the crime. Do that and you're gone. It doesn't matter if you're factually right. We were factually right. Doesn't matter. Challenge power and you are censored instantly. Now, it's hard to believe that the world's richest man is the only person who could fix this. You'd like to think our democratic systems could fix it, but clearly they can't. So Elon Musk seems to be our last hope. And tonight there are signs that Elon Musk plans to do something big with Twitter. Buying 9% of the company was clearly more than an investment. He doesn't need the money. Last week, after Musk became Twitter's single biggest shareholder, Twitter's management announced that he would join their board of directors. The seat would come with two major restrictions. First, Musk would be barred from owning more than 15% of Twitter stock. He would not be allowed to control the company. Second, as a board member, Elon Musk would have a fiduciary duty to shareholders. And in real terms, that means he could not reveal Twitter's algorithms. He couldn't tell the public what they are. Now, those algorithms are used to censor and suppress effective critics of the Biden administration, very often without their knowledge. It's done in secret. You can't fight back. You don't even know what's happening. So he could not challenge that if he took a board seat. But this weekend, Musk abruptly pulled out of the deal. And that means he's free to buy more shares of Twitter, in fact, to control it. On Sunday night, Twitter's pro-censorship CEO, Parag Agrawal, told Twitter employees to brace for Musk's attempt at a hostile takeover. He also strongly implied that Twitter will not submit unless forced. Quote, "There will be distractions ahead, but our goals and priorities remain unchanged." So you have to ask yourself, how exactly would Twitter, which is a public company, fight off a hostile takeover from the richest guy in the world? And already you can see the strategy to keep Elon Musk at bay. First, Twitter is enlisting the help of corporate media. Now, corporate media stands to lose at least as much as the Democratic Party will lose if Twitter is liberated. Competition is terrible for the mediocre and the illegitimate.
Most of this came by way of redstate.com. If you liked it, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Leave a comment down below. There's a PayPal link in the description box, so please put $1 in the bucket on the way out the door. I'd like to thank everyone for all your donations. They're much needed and much appreciated. Now, with all that being said, we'll see you next time.
Come on, move. Move. Easy, easy.